as proof that I am a fan of Lady Ghostbusters when in fact I think it was the worst movie like ever made compared to its budget. All right, so episode 285 of the In the Tank podcast. We're going to be talking about Joe Biden. We're going to talk about the stimulus package and a little bit of COVID talk because, you know, that's just our life now.
Donnie, what does your opinion of Lady Ghostbusters have to do with public policy in America? That's what I'm wondering. Like,
I just don't like my name dragged through the mud. Okay, that's it. So I got to clear the record up. As always, I am your host, Donald Kendal, joined, as always, your host. Also joining me,
last week.
Yeah, that's true. Jim Lakely, VP of the Heartland Institute, stood in for me last week when I was in Dallas. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing fine. Speaking of horrible movies, Coming to America 2, the sequel, oh my gosh, it is so terrible. In fact, it's so bad you should watch it. It is like a great hate-watching experience. It is cringily bad.
The review on, I think, Breitbart or maybe Daily Wire, one of the reviews I had seen on it was that it was a 2-hour-long apology for the original.
If it was that, it might have actually had a purpose. There's actually no purpose for this film to exist. It's the exact same film.
Eddie Murphy needs to get paid. I don't understand that. Like, what do you hate about capitalism and people earning money for themselves?
That is Isaac Orr, research fellow at the Center of the American Experiment. How are you, good sir?
I'm triggered by all of this movie talk and complaining about our fantastic film industry.
Nate Myers.
How's it going?
Forgot your title, but you are also at the Heartland Institute. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm now development coordinator.
Coordinator.
New title.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah. So I'm back in the saddle again. As Jim mentioned, I was down in Dallas talking with Mr. Glenn Beck with Justin Haskins, who you might remember from being on the show before he broke up with us. So I will say a couple of interesting things happened, COVID related, while I was down in Texas. One is the governor announced that they were going to suspend all of the restrictions that were in place because of COVID starting like a week later. I thought it was that Wednesday that I was there, but apparently it's only taking effect the Wednesday of this past week or this current week. And man, minds exploded down there. It was like everything just turned into Mad Max Thunderdome. Like people were running for the border. It was trending on Twitter that they hate living in Texas and all of that. And it was just like, it's not like he initiated a mask ban. Like, you could still wear it. Like, calm down, people. But I will say, on my flight, everyone had to wear masks, as you would expect. The flight was full. 100%, every seat was taken up, right? And this is all stuff that I expected. You know, wearing a mask, whatever. Wearing a mask in a public place is never the hill that I was planning on dying on. But the thing that really irked me was that when we landed, they announced over the intercom to continue, our social distancing. Please allow the row in front of you to get their bags and displane before you get your bags. And I'm just like, we've been sitting on a plane with recycled air next to each other for 3 hours, and we're gonna do social distancing now. And it's just like, to me, it encapsulated just how arbitrary all of this is. It's so crazy, but. I mean, Jim, you saw the kind of the outrage, I'm sure, on Twitter from certain segments of the population when Governor Abbott of Texas made that announcement.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about this on the podcast that you were not able to host last week.
I should have watched it.
You should have. I'm sure everybody watched it. But I made the point that it's like, look, it's the mask mandate has ended in Texas. It doesn't mean that you can't wear a mask. Like, right. They're not going to round you up and put you into a camp for mask wearers only, and everyone else gets to live freely. You can wear a mask if you want to. We've talked about how here in Illinois, this will be one of the last states to actually allow us to get our lives back the way they used to be. They will still say that it's too dangerous to go about anywhere, grocery stores or gyms, health clubs, offices, buildings, and all that stuff without having a mask on. But, one place they have kind of relaxed it here in Illinois are taverns, bars, restaurants. And so last weekend I went to I met a friend at a bar, and you have to wear the mask as you walk in, and then you sit down at the bar right next to him with the mask off. In fact, everybody in the bar had their mask off, but you had to wear it on the way in to comply with with the rules. This entire thing is that is as ridiculous as the idea that you have to socially distance while deplaning, while you're packed like sardines next to each other, breathing the same air, literally inches from each other's faces for 3 straight hours. And so this is we compared this to like the security theater that you have in airports after 9/11. The TSA makes you do all of these things that don't do anything really to keep you any safer, but it's just a procedure to put in place to make people feel that they're safer, more secure on their airplanes. And the same thing is happening here with these masks. It's not doing anything to keep people safer or less sick, because there's no consistency applied to it. It's the process is the punishment, as it were. It's just the exercise of doing this is supposed to make people feel more comfortable and more confident that we're all going to be okay, instead of just allowing people to live their lives and make their own choices that they're going to be okay.
Go ahead.
No, Nick, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Jim, that going back to the Texas thing and how people are outraged that the mask mandate is ending, it really kind of points out how reliant a lot of Americans have become on the state for their guidance, whether it be medical guidance or security guidance or moral guidance. The very fact that a mask mandate ends tells a certain number of Americans, oh no, like now I have to take my mask off. No, you should be making these decisions for yourself the whole time. It doesn't matter what the state says.
Yeah, so at the beginning of all of this, I remember, this is like 2 weeks into the lockdown. I posed this question on this podcast where it's like, is life irreparably changed, right? And this was only a couple of weeks into it. And I think the consensus on the podcast was like, no. Once this kind of goes away, everything will return back to normal. I remember like specifically posing like, is the handshake dead? Or like people are going to like stop physically interacting with people when they meet or something like that. And again, the consensus was like, no. Everything's going to go back to normal. Now, of course, there was no way that we could have perceived that this was going to go a year plus. We thought it was going to be just maybe a couple of months of, adjusting the way that we interact with people, but now we're
it's going to be the whole decade.
It. Yeah, no, seriously.
It's going to be the 2020s, baby.
But
everyone's like, whoa, 2020. No, 2020s.
Yeah, there's 10 of those.
That's right.
But like I just kind of was under the assumption, like you guys, that once these kind of restrictions kind of go out, once they're ended, that everything's going to go back to normal. And I don't think that anymore. And so I got this, there's a post from a buddy of mine's aunt on social media that says, here's an idea to discuss. People get a laminated card when they are fully vaccinated. This card allows you admission to clubs, restaurants, flights, bars, theaters, etc. If you aren't fully vaccinated, you are not allowed. It's your right to refuse to get a vaccine, liberty, but you will have consequences for your decision. Your body, your choice, your consequences. So this spurred this conversation among my group of friends that was just like, how would something like this be enforced? Would it be the government doing it, enforcing something like this, or businesses in this hypothetical situation? And I, being inundated with this news of like woke businesses that we talk about on a seemingly weekly basis, and all that great reset stuff that Justin and I talk about, to no end, that I thought that like I can totally see businesses initiating something like this with no government coercion at all. So we don't have to go down the trail of that hypothetical of a laminated card or anything like that, unless you're interested in doing that. But it made me think of this question. Like, what % of businesses are going to keep their mask mandates in place even after the government restrictions have ended? Isaac, what do you think? Give me a percentage.
After the mask mandates have ended?
Yeah, like the government mask mandates have ended. How many businesses, what percentage will still require you to wear a mask?
Oh, I don't know. I think after the government mandates are done, I don't know how many businesses will. I think it'll be like 10, 15, 20%.
Okay. I've heard that a couple of friends of mine had similar numbers. Jim, what do you think?
I actually think the number might be, I'll take a chance to say it's below 10%. I really think that the market will speak here, that people are not going to, they have choices. We have lots of choices in this country. Like Bernie Sanders used to say, why do we have 25 deodorants? Well, it's because we live in a capitalist society where we have those choices. We also have a lot of choices.
A bunch of dirty, smelly hippies.
Yeah, commies. Commies only get one they get Mitchum. And that's all they get.
Rub dirt under your arms.
Exactly.
Right. That's right. You take a mint leaf. Yeah, mint leaf, and that's great. But no, I think it's actually going to be a low percentage because I think the market is going to speak. People, I know I am not going to go into any establishment where I'm required to wear a mask by that establishment. Now, they're free to do that. You're free to say, we want everybody in here just to be safe, even though the government says we're okay now. To be on the really sure safe side, we're going to have, we require you to wear a mask to shop in this grocery store or go to this restaurant or go to a movie theater, any of that stuff. The market, I think, will actually correct this pretty quickly. I, for one, and I know there are millions and millions of people across America who, when they have their choice to give their business to someone, they will do it in a place where they are free to be a normal person, just like we were 13 months ago, a normal, living, breathing human being. It's going to be such a relief. The market will make this happen where it almost never happens. And then obviously people will walk in with masks even when it's not required. But I think the number of businesses that will require it will be a lot smaller than you guys think.
Nathan, so I mean, Jim's saying less than 10%. Isaac's at 15. I'm thinking it's much higher. Where are you at?
I think I agree a little bit more with you. I think the market is inherently reflective of the culture, and so it would really depend on what part of the United States you're talking about, because it's not going to be monolithic by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
I would probably say in much more blue areas, you're going to have upwards of 50 to 70% of businesses still requiring a mask mandate, especially the big box stores. I would even venture to say that a lot of corporate America, Walmart, Target, places, Starbucks, places like that, may still require mask mandates after the government mandate ends nationwide. But for more red states, I would probably say, something more like Isaac's saying, like 10, 15%.
See, I think it's going to be north of 50%. I think that across it, you're right. Red states and blue states, there'll be differences, but I think it's going to be a lot more. God forbid somebody takes to Twitter to call out a business for removing their mask mandate, and they have to suffer the PR flack of that rage mob on Twitter. They'll cave instantly. So I've got this. I got this article. It's a Fortune article. It's Macy's, Target, and Kohl's are among the companies keeping their mask mandates requirements in Texas and Mississippi. And if you read through that article, they talk about a number of other businesses that are also going to keep their mask mandates in place, including grocery stores. I think Kroger was specifically named, and they also talk about companies that have said that they're going to continue to require their employees to wear masks, including GM, Toyota, and a couple of other different places. But to me, it's like, it almost seems like a path of least resistance, like where you'd have to enforce some type of laminated card thing, like in that hypothetical that I mentioned at the onset of this discussion. With the masks, they just have to leave the signs on the doors. I think any chain of businesses that have stores in multiple states is just going to keep a uniform policy. That's nope. If you're going to enter our business, you have to wear a mask. Yeah. Maybe I'm cynical, but I don't know. I feel like there's too much news about woke businesses these days for them to kind of take a step towards liberty like that.
Well, and I was going to say we already see that with woke culture. You can look at how quickly corporate America caved to the woke mob in all of their ridiculous antics. So I don't see why mask mandates would be any different.
Now, yeah, I mean, I said at the outset of the COVID pandemic and all the lockdowns, I said, I don't think the American people are going to put up with this for very much longer. How wrong was I? That was a really stupid prediction. Because it turns out we're very compliant and we will do this the whole time. But so I'm still going to go out on a limb and say, I think Macy's is going to find out that people are going to go to a different store. Their business is going to suffer. And bailouts are not going to be happening for Macy's and Walmart and these other places. If they have the mask mandate, they're going to lose customers, and then they'll change.
They're going to get bailed out. Of course, it's the mom and pop stores that aren't going to get bailed out. Like, that's the huge travesty of all of this. Like, you have all of these businesses and states that did their best to crush the economy, and now they just get a get out of jail free card. Thanks, Congress. Like. Yeah. Nobody ever has to suffer any of the repercussions of their own poor decisions, and we'll just make some debt here for future generations.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we could probably jump right to that discussion about the stimulus bill if you want to. That was kind of a pretty decent segue. Well, maybe we'll say.
I'm not allowed to have good segues. We must return.
All right, fine. Because my segue was going to be that Biden referred to the policy change in Texas as Neanderthal thinking, which might be one step better than what Biden can actually muster himself.
Whoa. Whoa. That's
At least
very
it's
rude. You don't even know what he's capable of.
No, I don't. There has been news regarding Biden that's kind of gone around the media the past couple of days about how he has not held a formal press conference since being inaugurated as president. So I've got an article here, and everything that we talk about will be linked in the show notes. But this article says halfway into his first 100 days, President Joe Biden has yet to hold a formal solo news conference, raising questions about accountability with the White House under increasing pressure to explain why. Even as the nation deals with multiple crises, a deadly pandemic, a devastating economic fallout, Biden has gone longer without facing extended questions from reporters than any of his past 15 predecessors in the last 100 years. So to Biden's credit, and Andy, this is going to be video number 1 here. To Biden's credit, it doesn't seem to be a lack of trying on Biden's part. So I've got a pretty interesting video of him wanting to take questions, but then being cut off here. Oh man, producer sleeping on the job here. Okay, well, while he pulls that up, trivia question. So 15 predecessors, that goes back to POTUS number 30. Does anybody know who president number 30 was?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Incorrect.
30th president.
Come on. Jim's Googling it.
No, I'm not Googling it.
I'm a historian. I should know this.
You have to tell us the year, and then we'll get the president.
Okay, the years is 1923 to 29 or something like that.
Oh,
that would have been
Coolidge.
Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah.
Circle gets the circle gets
one
the
of
square.
our greatest presidents.
All right. Andy woke up. Play this video.
Thank you. And I'm happy to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, Nance. Whatever you want me to do.
It's gonna take questions. Oh no, they just cut away from him.
He's gone. That's it.
That's like a Saturday Night Live skit right there.
Right. I'll take questions. Whatever. Well, I don't know. Whatever you want me to do. And they're just like, dude,
you're the president.
I actually wanted like a big hook to come up and just like grab him and yank him off stage.
I just love how he's asking, whatever you want me to do. It's like, you're the president. You do what you want to do. You're the boss, right? Don't you remember that? You're not. You don't have campaign handlers anymore. You're the president. If you want to take questions, you take questions. Nope. His handlers obviously are running the White House, not him.
Yeah, well, there seems to be a couple of theories going on with this. His seemingly disinterest in answering questions, or at least from the administration itself, because there's been a number of videos like this. Most recently, just a couple of days ago, he was in some hardware store where he was talking about those PPE loans or PPP loans or something, and then after he did his little kind of speech in front of the cameras, all the reporters like, shouting questions at him, and then his handlers just like pushed all the reporters out. There's like several videos like that, but it seems to be there's a couple of theories that are going on. One is that he's too busy, like that intro of that article suggested, that he's got a bunch of crises he's dealing with. Two, he's dodging hardball questions about the border, because that seems to be the top item that the reporters are shouting at him from the sidelines. Mm-hmm. Or three, his declining mental state. Nate, what do you think? Do you agree with any of those theories? You got a theory yourself?
I would probably say it is a mix of the latter two. Although I don't know if it's necessarily just the border. I think there are a lot of questions that reporters and people would like to ask him about numerous topics, including the strike on Syria, the border crisis, a couple other things. But I would definitely say his mental health plays a huge role in that. They just don't want to risk him having on camera and making another gab.
Well, that seems to be every time. Honestly, I was like looking for videos to play on here, and there was no shortage of videos of him making gaffes. But like, I just looked up Joe Biden's speech, and the first video that popped up was like, is this really like, is this really supposed to be representative of kind of like the leader of the free world, like him stumbling over stuff? Right. Isaac, you thought that this was too mean-spirited of a topic to talk about. Care to explain yourself?
Yeah, I did think of that. Because it just seemed like we were making fun of a guy who clearly isn't very bright. Like, but like we knew that. Like, I guess like I'm surprised that people are surprised that there's no accountability or transparency to this person. Like, perhaps I'm just so cynical that like I never thought that we were going to get anything resembling like good government out of this administration, that like people who are complaining about it, I'm like, yeah, what'd you expect? Like, I don't know. Like maybe that's too nihilistic, but
sure,
that's how I feel.
Jim, I've got this other article here that says 33% of Americans say that Biden isn't mentally sharp enough for the job, according to an insider poll, a Business Insider, I guess. So it says a third of Americans are less than confident in Biden's mental capacities. It says, in addition to this, 17% said that they were only somewhat confident, and 5% said that they were not sure. So that leaves only 44% of Americans who are very confident in the president's mental state. I mean, is this like, it's you know, you see these numbers, but they're kind of in a little, they're a little isolated, right? So I don't know how this compares to Trump, how people perceive Trump or how people perceive Barack Obama. I can't imagine that the numbers were low for Barack Obama or even presidents past, but does this seem like an anomaly or just like, no, this is par for the course?
Oh, it's definitely an anomaly. We've never had, what is it? It's like I said, 10%, it's 11% said they're not, or not at all confident. 22.8% are not at all confident that Biden has the mental capacity for the job. And then you add in the other 10%, they say, I mean, not so confident. So what, 33%, a third of the country thinks that Biden's brain is mush.
Yeah, but like I think W would have had similar numbers. Like, well, nobody ever accused him of being a genius.
Less than 50% though.
It's not a matter of whether or not you thought George W. Bush was a genius or not. Obviously, people didn't. I mean, I remember there was actually a website. There was an actual website called Chimpy McBush Hitler that was all about ripping on him. You know, back in the early 2000s. I mean, you know, he was a moron, as they all said. You know, he would stumble over words. I conducted 2 Oval Office interviews of George W. Bush. He is not a moron. He is a very intelligent person. In fact, one of the questions I asked,
you won't get fooled again.
Well, yes, right. One of the questions I asked him after he went on a like 40, maybe 20 minutes talking about the intricacies of the internal politics of Iran and how that affected all the policy decisions they had to make in the Middle East and all that stuff. And after it was over, I'm there with other reporters, and I said, "Pardon me for asking this, sir, but why doesn't the American people know that you know all this stuff, that you're this on top of the issues?" And he said, "It's not, you know, my job is to communicate as simply as possible with the American people." Now you can definitely say he succeeded in simply communicating simply with the American people, but he was not an idiot. That's right. But he was not but George W. Bush was not an idiot. And this poll is not about whether or not Joe Biden is an idiot or not smart. And I actually don't think he's that smart. It's whether his brain is turning into Jello. And a third of the country thinks so.
See, I mean, yeah, this is where
and you know why? Yeah. But you know why they think this? Because there's evidence that this is happening. This man is showing a obvious cognitive decline. We talked about this during the campaign. I actually didn't think the Democrats were really going to do it, that they were really going to give the nomination to a man who was in obvious mental sharpness decline, right? And so he's shown this all the time. I don't know if we're going to be able to play the clips, but he forgot the name of his own Secretary of Defense during a presentation with his Secretary of Defense. He forgot where he works, which is called the Pentagon, not that place over there. You know, so it's not as if he's not smart. He's not remembering things. He's the oldest person to ever be elected president. He's going to be 80 years old this year, I believe.
But Jim, you know the thing.
You know the thing. He can't, his brain is not functioning properly. He doesn't do an interview without Jill Biden, his wife, by his side to basically coax him through it and to help answer some of the questions that he gets.
Jim, let's say you're right. Let's say he is in decline. Do we want to advertise that to the world? Like,
No
It's too
advertisement
late.
needed. Yeah, if it's no advertisement needed, I think
We
it's
want to
pretty
put
obvious.
it on full display. Like
So that's
what
why
I'm
they're not.
wondering.
That's why he's not doing press conferences.
Is it
that
in
what
the
you're
best
saying?
interest of the country to have a president who's obviously weakened at Biden's, or is it better to have the charade where we pretend that there's some plausible deniability?
Because do you really think the
This is the
KGB
conversation
or like
we're
the
having.
Chinese Communist Party is really fooled by any antics that we throw up on our news outlets? They're gonna know, regardless of whether or not we put him on TV, whether or not he is mentally sound.
Do you know what
do you
doesn't
think
serve, you know what doesn't serve the interests of the American people and our national security very well, Isaac? It was spending the previous 4 years pretending that Donald Trump was installed into the White House by
good
Vladimir
point.
Putin.
Very good point.
So if now we're suddenly worried that the obviousness of Joe Biden's mental decline is somehow is endangering national security, it's too late. It's obvious to everyone. What you can't hide in your basement as president. You can hide in your basement as a candidate, especially if the media is just basically going to never question you, never report any negative stories, and just push you over the finish line. It's very easy to sit in your basement during a presidential campaign, but you're the president. You need to be the president. It's a job. It's an actual thing. It's not fake. You can't fake your way through it.
It is fake.
It's fake.
Like,
There's no presidency.
There is no presidency.
You're saying
Jim,
the administration around him?
I'm saying the administration around him is going to run the show. He's a figurehead. He's basically the Queen of England at this point. Like an old, wrinkly.
That's not fair to the Queen.
Thing. Okay, sure. But honestly, an old, wrinkly thing that just gets trotted around to play the national anthem. Did anybody think that he was going to be running the show, honestly, or did everyone just know that Harris was going to be the de facto president? We talked about this. We knew that Joe Biden was not going to be the president. So I don't understand why everybody's now upset that Joe Biden is not being the president. Well,
this is where having an actual press in this country, an actual operating media in this country would be pretty damn useful to the American people. Somebody needs to be asking, does he even know those executive orders that he's signing? Does he know what's in them? Did he read them? Did he write them? Who is writing these executive orders? Who is setting policy in the White House? Yeah, but we can't even have a conversation about that. Our media is asking about whether or not the White House is going to get a cat.
I think that there's merit to having an incompetent executive because, okay, we had this in Minnesota. All right. We had Mark Dayton, who was largely out to lunch, and he was our governor previous to Governor Tim Walz. And Tim Walz is much more effective at implementing bad policy than Mark Dayton ever was. So really, I think that there is merit to the fact that maybe Joe Biden is not the most effective politician.
There would be merit if he didn't have an administration running things for him.
Sure.
So if he was just, a bumbling idiot, not really doing much in the office and just kind of a placeholder until the next president arrives, yeah, that's great. Honestly, ideally, that's kind of what you want from the executive branch. You want them not to do much, and just kind of coast. But unfortunately, you have Biden's administration, which is radically left in a lot of ways, and they're really running the show.
This is why he needs to have a proper presidential press conference, and why it is actually an important thing and a troubling thing that no president has gone this long without having a proper press conference to answer the American people for more than 100 years, because we need to know. Somebody needs to ask. I mean, look, this is the friendliest press that any president will ever get in their life. They'll be even friendlier to Joe Biden than they were to Barack Obama, because they know that they can't challenge him at all. They can't even challenge him with friendly questions, because he won't be able to answer those either. And we need to ask, the American people need to know, and somebody needs to ask him in a proper press conference, who is implementing these policies? What was the thinking behind this policy? Why is why is only 3% of the COVID relief bill actually going to COVID relief, and the rest of it is a big Democratic wish list for all of these things? What about the border crisis? What about, aren't these kids in cages? He won't be able to answer any challenging questions. And we should actually know that. We're sitting around here pretending that this is okay, that this is normal, and that maybe it's a good idea that the president doesn't know what he's doing. That's insane. That's insane. And I'm done pretending that this is normal and that this is okay. I'm not doing it.
Also, Isaac,
Since when has the president really done the right thing, though?
Wait, Isaac. See, we, who are inundated with all of this stuff. Yeah, we get it. We get it. The president's not actually sitting there thinking, in his shower thoughts and saying, would be a good executive order. Like, this is clearly like a committee thing going on. We know that. But does that knowledge kind of filter down to the average person? I'm not entirely sure. And I think that it would be, it is valuable to kind of highlight the fact that this guy's got mush brains when like there was a total rejection of like the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party during the primaries. They voted this guy in, Biden, because he was a moderate. But then when we find out that his administration that's actually running things is anything but moderate, like there's definitely value in pointing that out.
Yeah.
But you don't need a press conference to do that, is what I'm saying. Like, you can do that any old time. Like, you can criticize this executive order so far. You can criticize the legislation. Like, whether or not he holds a press conference or not doesn't really matter.
Okay, we've got some evidence lined up here. So why don't we play one of these clips? We got a few clips. Let's play a few of these.
You all
Give us
being
your
very
commentary
polite
on
with
this.
me all day, and it's dinner time. Good afternoon, or almost. Actually, it's evening. And I want to thank you, Governor Miss Abbott, for your hospitality and your friendship. And Representative Senator Cornyn, I think he had to go back. I think he was getting on a plane. He told me he came in to see me last event. And Representatives Shirley Jackson Lee, Al Green, Sylvia Garcia,
painful.
Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and what am I doing here? I'm going to lose track.
What are you doing here?
And I could be known for as president. I would be the president who, during his era, ended cancer as we know it. But then last week, guess what? We also landed a rover on Mars.
They're really showing themselves to do really well. Come on, man.
So yeah, he wants to, he'd be totally content with being a president that ended cancer during his term. Like,
what if he actually believes that? Does he really think he ended cancer?
No, I think that he just.
I don't like how that clip was clipped together. Like, I don't feel like we got good context.
That was, the first part didn't need any context, and the second part, I truly think that he was meaning to say COVID. Like, he presided over the end of COVID, not cancer. Is there a cancer vaccine that's being worked on? That I didn't know?
How can you be sure? We don't know. Nobody asks any follow-up questions. Nobody says, did he mean cancer or COVID? Because our press is corrupt and in the tank, to coin a phrase, for this administration.
We got some more. We got some more clips. Play. Just chime in with them anytime you're ready there, Andy. This one's a classic.
Self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. We hold.
Yeah, that one's like almost like shirt slogan worthy. That one though. I've heard actually a good theory on that one. He didn't actually forget to say under God or like complete the thing. He just he just realized at that moment that like maybe invoking God in front of this audience isn't like the best move. So he just threw in the thing.
We've seen that with Democrats before. They abstain from like whenever they recite the Pledge of Allegiance, they'll abstain from saying under God. They do it often. There's been talk for a long time of removing "In God We Trust" from the dollar bill.
No, right.
It's not. It would make sense.
Yeah,
so it's also actually etched in stone in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Those words are etched in stone on the wall. So I guess they'd have to sandblast that off there too.
I was gonna say, although to be fair, they added that like in the 50s when we started.
So like,
war.
Why?
To differentiate ourselves from those godless commie bastards in the Soviet Union. That's why.
Pretty much.
Probably.
Yeah.
Not pretty much. Exactly 100%. That's exactly why it was done.
I guess I'll take your word for it, Jim. I didn't live it. You did.
That's true. I'm very old.
Go ahead, Andy.
The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives.
Private economic polling initiatives? What is that?
In addition to the needs that people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble. The vast majority of
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Private economic polling initiatives. Does anyone know what that is?
Did you Google it?
You know what? I will Google it. Andy, you could pull up another clip if we've got another one. I think we've got a few here. I'm going to look up economic polling initiatives.
I have no idea what that is. I'm trying to figure out what he meant to say.
Yeah, we're all Googling it frantically right now.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
I think it was just a word. I think it was just a word salad, honestly.
Yeah, he's just stringing together words that he thinks sound good at this point.
Yeah, from Wall Street to, I think he wanted to say like Main Street. You know, from Wall Street to Main Street, we all need this or something like that. And private.
Okay, wait. Funded by Dean Groper, the Business and Economic Polling Initiative at Florida Atlantic University conducts surveys on businesses, economic, political, and social issues with a main focus on Hispanic attitudes and opinions at regional, state, national levels. I don't think that has anything to do with what Mike was talking about.
Do you really think that's what he was citing?
Definitely not. He wanted to say Main Street. So. All right. Do we have one more? Let's play one more.
So I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we just talked about, and for recommending these two women for promotion. Thank you all. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
I mean, isn't he reading from a teleprompter? Like, how does he forget names? Like, shouldn't they be written out in front of him?
They probably are.
Right? I don't know, man. This is like,
look, he's not Lloyd Austin, by the way, is his Secretary of Defense, which he couldn't remember. He literally just appointed him, and this was like a week ago, and he doesn't remember who he is. Doesn't remember that he works at the Pentagon, and oh my God, I feel bad for the two women who were just promoted in the Pentagon, because I hope their name is on a plaque or a certificate somewhere, because they didn't get to hear the president say their name at the congratulations ceremony. So look, this. I hate to say it this way, but we have to face reality. A lot of people listening to this podcast, and maybe you guys do, many families go through this sort of thing where, grandpa just doesn't quite have it anymore, where he starts to get forgetful. It's one thing that everybody forgets the name of their kids. There's like, those are just like mental, those are like little moments where you just kind of forget. I was the fourth of four kids. My dad probably called me all the other kids, and then he got to me. That's what your name is. Go get me another soda or something like that. But this happens. These are all the symptoms of what is obviously, what could be. I'm not a doctor. You can't diagnose it, but there is a serious and real mental decline going on here, that he just can't get the words out because his brain is not working as well as it should for anybody in a position of power, let alone the president of the United States. And what's really frustrating is that the media is not making a big deal out of this. After like a hair on fire, every time Donald Trump's tweeted something mean to somebody else, they would just lose their minds over it. But this is actually an important issue that actually affects the way this country is run. Well, and they're saying that he stutters. He has a stuttering problem. He's always had a stuttering problem. False. He actually had a stuttering problem, but it had never really brought itself to the fore in the 5 decades he's been a politician. He has talked about how he got over stuttering, as a matter of fact.
Hasn't he been a gaffe?
We're being lied to. We're being lied to by the media forever. I'm just sick of being lied to and having these obvious problems with the president of the United States completely ignored by our media, who would give him the gentlest treatment possible, and they still won't put him in front of them for more than literally 30 seconds as he's rushed off the stage before anyone can even ask him a question.
Well, and I would point out the stark contrast between how the media treated Trump in regards to mental fitness and how they're treating Biden. I mean, yeah, sure, Trump was a little erratic sometimes, but I mean, it was every other day they were accusing him of being mentally unfit, and they were exploring the wildest theories as to what it could be. They were coming up with all sorts of obscure conditions or neurological conditions that he
drank water, or how he stood, or any of that. Yeah, for sure.
All this different stuff. And then you literally have a geriatric mushmine guy standing up as the president of the United States, barely able to talk, and they're treating it like it's normal. Well,
Yeah, you know what?
Normal stuff.
This was a lot funnier when he was running against like 14 other Democrats, and there was like kind of an outside chance that he would like, of even
Pull it
becoming
off
president.
somehow.
Yeah, now that he is president, it gets a little more sad. But Nate, when you were just talking about that reminded me of was it like Nancy Pelosi specifically, her push to get like the 25th Amendment strengthened to like take out Trump for one of those reasons that you were just describing there. But then there was rumblings that were like, maybe they're setting the stage for when Biden is president. So I actually just pulled up this article, and I guess recently maybe Trump had mentioned that this 25th Amendment push is actually going to come back to haunt Joe Biden. So I don't know, man. I think that might be something that happens in the next several months, maybe. Definitely before the end of this first term. I
mean, we all basically know that their ultimate game plan is to install Kamala as the real president. And what better way, like you said, that's an interesting point. What better way to kind of shuffle Joe off to the old folks home and get Kamala in there than invoking the 25th. Like, sorry, Mr. President, we just don't believe you're mentally fit anymore.
Yeah. All right, gents, any last words on this one before we move on to this last topic of ours? Hearing nothing, I will move on. We got to do it, man. We got to do it.
The thing. He's glad.
like next week we're going to be talking about a story about how like Joe Biden got lost in the walk-in closet at the White House or something like that. We're going to have to cover it.
I mean, Babylon Bee had a pretty hilarious one where they're like, Biden removed from White House after biting visitor.
They blamed it on the dog.
Yeah.
All right. So stimulus bill number 3, 4, 5. Which one is
3.
this?
I believe it's 3.
This is 3. I don't know. I'm not putting my money on that one. But stimulus bill 3 or 4 looks like it's going to pass. Did it already pass both chambers of the House? They need to reconcile it. What's the latest on this?
You mean the $1.9 trillion COVID response bill?
Correct.
Biden, as we're recording this, he literally just signed it.
Oh, no kidding. Well, there you go. It's passed. Boom. Okay. So yeah,
Jimmy's baby.
Everyone's getting their $1,400. I'm gonna put it all into GameStop stock.
Oh yeah, to the moon.
So there's a couple of articles that I have in the show notes in case you're interested that kind of talk about this stimulus bill number 3 or 4 or whatever it is. One is from Heartland Institute's own editor Chris Talgo that is on Town Hall, I believe, where the White House press secretary Jen. How do you say that last name? Psaki?
Yes, Jen Psaki.
Who Nate has a crush on, referred to the American Rescue Plan as one of the most consequential and most progressive pieces of legislation in American history. So the rundown of this article is basically just showing how she is correct. This is actually a very progressive piece of legislation that, yes, it includes stimmy checks for everybody, including Isaac Orr, but a whole number of other handouts and stuff, including $350 billion to blue state bailouts, which is something that we had talked about from the early days of this COVID thing, that the COVID lockdowns and restrictions that are in place were going to be used by governors in states like Illinois and New York and California to fill their pension budget gaps and all of that stuff. And it looks like they finally got their wish. $350 billion is going to be in this.
I actually did not know that. I didn't realize there were bailouts for blue states. That honestly disgusts me. They allow mass rioting and looting in their own states. They shut down small businesses at the expense of the taxpayers, and then they have the audacity to get bailed out by the federal government. I mean, it just seems like a complete failure of our federal system from top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, so we can get into this specific thing too, but I just want to talk about the bill in general as well. One of these articles that I have from the Heritage Foundation, if you click through their links in there, they've got a specific article about the state bailout thing that were being proposed and basically all of the stimulus bills up until this point. But it says that according to the most recent data released by the Census Bureau, through the end of September, state and local state and local combined revenues increased by $20 billion compared with the same 12-month period in 2019. State-only revenues over the same period declined by $24 billion, or about 2.2%, because they tend to rely on more volatile taxes, such as corporate and personal income taxes, instead of property taxes. So the point that they're making in this is that the shortfalls in these states because of COVID are actually a lot tamer than they would lead you to believe. And they point to that the state budget gaps in some of these, in like Illinois and California and New York, were like massive before any COVID stuff happened, before any lockdown restriction stuff happened. And then this is just basically being used as an excuse to fill those gaps. So Jim, I mean, it's just, this doesn't shock you. I mean, you've seen this a million times. This is pat for you.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And it's just the way things work. You guys realize that we just passed and signed, Donald Trump signed it, a $900 billion COVID relief package in December.
Yeah.
65 days ago or so, or not even 60. Yeah, about 60 days ago. We already spent almost $1 trillion, and now we have to spend another $2 trillion. This bill,
they spent too much the first time. Like, Donald Trump bears some responsibility for this, baby, because they signed the $2 trillion war. Like, they bailed
and we were
out
critical then too.
Who needs new wars when we can just keep signing stimulus bills?
Right, exactly.
This one article said Congress has already enacted $4.5 trillion in COVID-related stimulus and relief measures.
Yeah, no, but it's not COVID related. I mean, what is it? What 3% of this bill actually goes toward like vaccine distribution, which actually, that was what Operation Warp Speed was all about. Giving the money to these drug companies to make the vaccines and distribute them. So we've already paid for it. And now we're going to pay for it again. But even that, this is just the big Democratic wish list. This has nothing to do at all, pretty much, with COVID relief. Most of the states that are getting supposed relief in their budgets, it's not about how they lost tax revenue because of the lack of economic activity that they themselves locked down. It's mostly like here in Illinois to avert the fiscal collapse that will happen because of public pensions. This is to pay teachers unions. This is to pay, government workers and keep their pensions solvent. This is not about COVID relief. This is a fleecing of the taxpayers so that, and frankly, it's not unfair to say this is the transfer of wealth from red states to blue states, because red states don't have these problems nearly as much as blue states do, like here in Illinois. And too bad, America. We voted for Joe Biden. We have a Democrat-controlled Congress, and this is what you get.
Well, and Jim, I think it touches on an important point, regardless of whether, the senators and the congressmen more generally are Democrat or Republican. I think it points to the fact that Congress will not pass a bill that simply helps the American people. They have to get their cut. All of the bureaucrats, all of the swamp creatures, they all have to get, they have to butter their biscuits before anyone can actually get any relief. Only 3% of the bill is actually going to the American people. 97% of it is going to the swamp creatures. And I think that just speaks volumes. I think they're probably incapable of passing a bill that just helps the American people.
Well, in like the soundbite culture and media landscape that we're in, it like drives me insane because, we're well aware of this, but the headline of what the stimulus bill package thing is the $1,400 that everybody gets, right? And that's it. So I was driving to work the other day, or maybe I saw it on social media or something like that. But anyways, the little soundbite was like, 0 Republicans voted for $1,400 checks to everybody, as if that was the only thing that was contained in this bill. And it wasn't filled with all of this other stuff and a $15 minimum wage, federal $15 minimum wage increase and all of this other crap that's in there. Nope. It's just this one little bit, which just kind of points to this, like the problem in Washington with all these like omnibus bills that are always passed every year. There's some spending bill that's just got everything you can imagine shoved in there, thousands of pages. Nobody reads it. And it's just like, we got to sign it. We got to keep the doors open, the lights on. So I don't know. I mean,
I personally support passing a constitutional amendment requiring only one topic per bill. I feel
Jim,
like what do you think
about that?
It'll never get passed, but
What do you think about that? One topic per bill?
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, a lot of legislation is supposed to be that way. You're supposed to pull out non-germane items out of bills. That was kind of a rule in the House of Representatives for a long time. Those rules are out the window. It doesn't matter. Look, they say you don't want to see how sausage is made. You don't want to see how legislation is made either. But looking at this, $2 trillion after just spending $1 trillion, which, as Isaac has pointed out, that was Trump's doing. He wanted to make sure that we spent that. And this is called, what is it called? The American Recovery Act, something like that. How are we going to recover from this Recovery Act? I mean, we're going to be broke. We remember when we started talking about the Green New Deal? I know, we are broke.
We've been talking about being broke for the last 12, 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
Remember when we said we don't have any money?
Yeah.
We just print it, man.
Well, we've talked about this before on the podcast about the Green New Deal, and we used to, when we first started talking about it, we would laugh. It's like, there's no way. What was the price tag on that? Was it $100 trillion or something like that?
90 trillion over 10 years.
Yeah, 90 trillion over 10 years. So basically $10 trillion a year. And we would say, there's no way anyone's going to approve spending $10 trillion a year on the Green New Deal. Are you sure? I think we will. We've just spent $4.5 trillion on so-called COVID relief in the last 12 months. We can totally do the Green New Deal for $10 trillion a year.
If it comes with $2,000 stimulus checks, it'll get passed. Like
it'll pass anything.
Like anything can get passed if you add.
Reminds me of a Benjamin Franklin quote. Oh man, I'm trying to think of it.
Was that Jefferson or Franklin?
I thought it was Franklin, but it may have been Jefferson. But basically, the quote goes that when the American people figure out that they can legislate receiving money, that will herald the end of the republic. And I think we're seeing that.
Isaac, it's going to be we're going to pass a bill about like nuking the moon, but we're going to give everyone like $50 too. Like, okay, yeah, pass it.
That's what it takes for me to get my 50 stimmy. Like, let's.
But as somebody that has been warning everybody about the modern monetary theory and all of that, the idea that debt and deficits don't matter and we could just print to our heart's content as long as inflation doesn't rage up or something like that, I feel vindicated. So I'll just say that. I felt vindicated for the past several months. But this idea that we're fleecing the taxpayer, it's again, this doesn't come with tax increases.
Right.
This is not some extra burden on everybody, which is like, I'm saying that as, that's a bad thing. If this did also require, we got to stimulate everything. So someone's got to pay for it. So you're going to have to pay more come, April 15th or whatever. That, that would actually cause people to be like, well, maybe we don't need it. Maybe we should just open up stores. But because the printing presses are just running on full speed, there's seemingly no consequences for anybody. So why would people on Main Street or in the private economic polling stations or whatever care about this? Agreed. Anyone want to answer that? Jim, do you want to answer that?
Go ahead, Isaac.
Well, they're not going to. Like, it's all
that's the biggest problem. Yeah.
Kicking the can down the road. Well, yeah, because we'll end up like Japan, right? Like, that's the problem. So
if we're lucky, we'll end up like Japan.
Well,
yeah, I think we're going to end up like Japan.
Did anyone even watch? Was there actually even any real substantive debate about this spending bill in Congress or out of Congress, or
is there ever
in our media? No, I don't think we have those debates anymore.
Member of the House of Representatives, Jim. Why do people have expectations for these people?
True,
I agree.
But you used to be able to at least count on some Republicans to make the fiscally conservative case about spending bills like this.
Yeah, but it's so really difficult for them to do that because they just spent the last 4 years spending like drunken sailors.
Yes, that's right. Nobody makes these arguments anymore. The idea that it used to be a winning political issue to say that I am for a balanced budget amendment.
Yeah.
Putting aside the fact that balanced budget
Obama.
Amendments in states are completely powerless and don't really mean anything, at least it has symbolic value on the political, in the political world. Now nobody even says it anymore. Nobody cares.
When Barack Obama was running for office, he said that the amount of debt that George Bush accumulated was unpatriotic.
It was.
That's right.
Yeah, but I'm saying like Barack Obama ran as like a fiscal hawk. He ran as that, and like his big stimulus bill of like, what was it, $900 billion? That's like nothing. That seems like nothing now. It's like, oh yeah, we passed that in December. We're moving on to a $1.9 trillion one.
Nancy Pelosi would call that crumbs.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Like I said, the reoccurring theme of the last several podcasts is we are beyond economic reality at this point. We're all playing with monopoly money. This can't end well. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
and we have to remember there's so many bad things about the blue state bailout aspect of this American Recovery Plan or Act or whatever the hell it is. One of the worst aspects of that, though, is that it kicks the can down the road for these states to finally get their own fiscal houses in order. Illinois has been, its public pension problem has been passed on from governor to governor, and it's just been kicked down the road. And now many states that have large public pension problems, like with school teachers and other public employees, well, now they can just ignore that for another decade until it gets even worse. But there's no incentive to at all anymore, state by state or now with the federal government, to even think about whether this is a smart thing to do to spend all of this money. Which means, as I said before, the Green New Deal, it's coming. Because if the idea is that we can't afford the Green New Deal, that argument is completely out the window now.
It absolutely is. Isaac, what are you going to spend your $1,400 on?
I don't know if I'm going to get one.
No?
What's the cutoff?
Whatever you are at, I think is the official cutoff. Nate,
Okay.
what are you spending your $1,400 on?
I will probably invest some of it in the stock market. And
GameStop, baby.
Yeah, probably stock market.
I'm going to put it all into Chainlink and other cryptocurrencies. All right, gentlemen. I don't know if we got really much else you want to... Isaac, what do you think about Elon Musk? You can fill up the last 5 minutes here.
So I'm really conflicted about that, actually. I was thinking about this. I don't know if I loathe him as much as I used to.
Oh, wow.
I know.
You loathed him? Why did you loathe him?
I was a never Elon.
Is it because he's trying to go to space and all of his rockets keep blowing up?
He called him the largest welfare queen on the planet, I think, at one point.
He is. He was. So there's that. It's just like, okay, he's at least starting to say things that I agree with. And even though he's just been a huge taxpayer subsidy whore his entire life, I don't know. Like it's nice to have at least one billionaire who's like out there saying things I agree with. So my never Elon position is softening a little bit.
Well, and as much as I hate corporate welfare, if there is going to be taxpayer money going to any corporation, I'd probably want it to go to Elon and his efforts, because at least he's trying to do something productive and beneficial to the rest of society. Because really, in my opinion, the future of humanity rests in the stars.
Well, sure, but like he's scooping up all the sweet Tesla dollars too. Like that's the thing that triggers me.
So yeah, sure. That's unforgivable because of the subsidized Tesla corporation. There's this idea in the culture that electric cars are actually viable as products, and they're not. But we think they are because there's all those Teslas on the road that just look so shiny and new. And so, yeah, we can all be in those electric cars. No, we can't. There's many, many problems with them, and they wouldn't even exist. They literally would not exist in our economy in any significant way if it wasn't for subsidies from the federal government. I love Elon Musk trying to go to Mars. I've actually watched a few of the.
I wish he'd go there and stay there.
Yeah, but if you guys should check out the is it the SN10 and the SN8 and the SN9. Watch those rocket launches on YouTube. It's actually pretty cool. Every time they crash a rocket, the guys doing the commentary, I think are paid by Elon Musk, are laughing during it. But they actually talk about how they learn a lot, even though the rocket blew up. They're learning a ton. It's actually really fascinating that every time a rocket explodes, they're actually getting closer to Mars.
You gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? You gotta blow up a few rockets to get to Mars. I think. Well,
it's like the Thomas Edison quote. I didn't. I'm gonna butcher this, but basically, he didn't. It took him 99 tries to make the light bulb, and he said that I didn't fail 99 times. I figured out 99 ways not to make a light bulb.
Right, exactly. All right, gentlemen, unless you got any jokes or anything you want to get off your chest, I think we're going to wrap it up for today.
You like jokes? Watch Coming to America sequel. It's not funny. No jokes at all.
Yeah, the movie itself is a joke. All right. Well, that'll do it for episode 285 and then take podcast. If you like our show, please subscribe, write a review for us on iTunes. That would be greatly appreciated. You can find us on pretty much everything nowadays: Spotify, YouTube, Google Play. I don't know, whatever you find your podcasts. Send us your comments, suggestions, questions by emailing us at inthetankpodcast@gmail.com. Jim, where can the fine people find you?
At Jay Lakely on Twitter, at Heartland Inst on Twitter, and always visit heartland.org.
Nate Myers, you're a ghost when it comes to social media. There's nowhere people can find you, right?
Not really. Not
okay,
anymore.
Good. Isaac Orr, same question. Where can the people find you? Oh, that's it. That's it.
Nope.
You're
The fracking guy.
okay. Yeah, leave us hanging. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you next week.
Follow my burner account. Justin Trash Bins.
Okay. Bye-bye.